Starting out at 11 p.m. That's always a good choice. Hello everyone and welcome to the studio. Sorry to be coming at you with double vision, but I got some new art supplies today. Or rather, I should say yesterday. They're the long-awaited R&F Drawing Oils. These are small stick oil paints. That is, they are more similar to pigment sticks or oil sticks than they are similar to an oil pastel. They are oil paint that dries, which is so cool. They are small and harder than the standard oil sticks and pigment sticks, I believe, but I have been waiting for these for months. They got announced ages ago. I knew the boss at work was getting them in, so the second I saw them hit the shelf, I was like, done, I need some of these to try. I just picked these 5 colours. They're in a rack with just individuals. And yeah, I wanted to give them a go straight away, even though it was 11 p.m. and I should have gone to bed. Hi, impulse control, hi. So as you can see, yes, I did just get the 5 colours. I got Mars Yellow Light. No, what did I get? I got Warm Pink, Mars Yellow Light, Cerulean Extra Pale, Brilliant Yellow Extra Pale, and Payne's Grey. Each of the pastels comes in a little wood stand, just individually. They've got a sort of wax paper label on them, and they list all the colour names in multiple languages. They list the pigment breakdown. They all say it's linseed oil and natural waxes is the component. Forms to ASTM D4236. So pretty basic, same as most pastel brands, just your, general. I do appreciate that they put the name of the colour both on the butt end of the drawing oil and along the side. So as you tear the paper off, you can still know what name it is and you don't tear it off and it disappears forever. I also got a copy of the colour chart. There's 40 colours in total, and that had a little bit of information. And then they gave me, or rather they had a second handout of FAQs and helpful hints. So I'm going to go through that a little bit because I found them incredibly helpful and it answered most of my questions. This video is not sponsored by R&F, but hey R&F, if you want someone in Australia, I'm a fan. Not a spoiler, but I'm a fan. Yeah, so the colour chart, I always find that handy. I do appreciate with this colour chart as well that they're not just like flat colour swatches. It's very obviously someone sat there and squiggled them because a lot of the colours are a bit transparent. And on the back of the colour chart, look at how much detailed information there is about the pigment breakdown. So you don't even need to buy them all to get that. I did check as well, and the colour chart and this FAQ with helpful hints are both available on the R&F website. So that's really handy because I know in art shops the colour charts go pretty quick and then they're hard to get back sometimes. So yeah, this is the helpful hints bit, this bit, yeah. So it's just a little black and white guide, but it answered a whole bunch of my questions. So we'll go through it one little bit at a time as I swatch the drawing oils. I keep going to call them pastels, but they're not pastels, they're drawing oils. So yeah, I'm just going to use a standard premium drawing pad by Art Spectrum. It's a nice heavy paper. It's not primed. In hindsight, I wish I could have used one of my oil papers like the Ashes or the Canson Figurative because I kind of forgot that these with the oil content, they soak through. But as you can see, first pastel, I put it down. It sort of has a little skin on the pastel, and when you push, it breaks through, and inside it's a little bit creamier than that first sort of little layer of the pastel. Turns out I was not using a clean piece of paper like I thought. That was colouring. Whoops, my bad. That's fine. Let's start again on a new piece of paper. That's fine. So yeah, I noticed this paper has quite a texture to it. So the drawing oils, the sticks, I'm going to call them sticks. The drawing oil sticks do show that texture. I'm not using a huge amount of pressure, but I did notice that first stroke where that little skin is on the outside of the pastel did take a little bit more oomph. So yeah, in the little helpful hints guide, the first thing they say, what are drawing oils? Are they similar to pigment sticks, which are the large oil paint sticks? I have played with those a bunch and I do intend to do a video on them. That's later. Yeah, so it's oil paint in a stick form made with linseed oil, pigment and natural wax. Inspired by the pigment sticks, these are specifically a drawing experience with a harder formulation. So that's where it doesn't go down and just slick straight away, or at least it doesn't feel that way to me. It goes down with a little bit more rigorous movement and things like that, more similar to the feel, I would say, of an oil pastel, but I've noticed they're not all bitsy in the way that an oil pastel is. It's only that outside layer of the stick that's sort of, or the outside layer of the drawing oil that's got that skin, that little dried skin, that turns into like little flakes on the paper, and you'll see that a bit as I go. You can even see that there with the Brilliant Yellow Extra Pale. It's created some little chunkies. That's definitely where I've broken into it, that first bit. Yeah, the next thing they say is, will R&F Drawing Oils form a skin like pigment sticks? Will they dry out? And they said, yes, basically, they will form a skin when you're not using them, and that preserves the French paint on the inside. But they don't specifically say that it can't keep drying inside. So I don't know if it's one of those things, if this was left in a warm environment, like well oxygenated for like 2 years, you'd come back and there'd be no inner core to get through to. I'm not sure. It's enough to make me think, if I put it in a Ziploc bag with barely any oxygen, that's probably the ideal environment. So yeah, at the moment I've got them in a little cardboard box with some foam, but I might actually put them in a Ziploc bag. I think that would be better, but that is just my gut telling me that, not any strict information. Then it says, yeah, how do I remove the oil skin? And I'll get into this in a little bit at the moment because I've just pushed it straight onto the paper. So here my aim was just to do a push, nice hard pressure in that little block at the bottom, and then at the top do some harder pressure going to lighter pressure. So you can see there is variation there. It will show more of the tooth of the paper when I use lighter pressure. And yeah, I assumed it would spread more, but I think that's more my impression from using pigment sticks or oil sticks, so the ones that are the larger buttery sticks, because those ones feel like painting with lipsticks, and this definitely feels harder than that, but not hard like a crayon. There's a big texture thing here. We're getting into like texture town. How do you articulate texture? But I'm glad with this you can see that that skin on the outside of the pastel does break up into the little bits, and you can see there I've just sort of twirled it in a tissue to get the little chunkies off. I didn't feel like I was wasting a whole bunch of material or anything. And then you've got that one little section where I've pushed, you can see it's very distinctly creamier than the outside of the stick. Here we go. So they say, how do you remove the oil skin is the next thing in the FAQ. Use a pencil or crayon sharpener. I don't have a sharpener that big. It's like 0.50 of an inch diameter. I don't know what that is. You could use a razor blade. Here I've used a painting knife just to put it down the edge of the pastel. Or it says simply draw on a piece of scrap paper, which I guess is exactly what I was doing there by doing the swatch. They said you can wipe the end with a tissue prior to use to ensure an effortless drawing experience. I'm assuming that language is saying to take the little crusties off, to take the little bits of the skin off. So these skin bits, it's a very different, like you can instantly tell when you've taken the skin off that you have it. I'm not like gouging straight into it. It's quite easy to just skate along the surface, but it feels distinctly different. And actually along the top, it sort of came off like a little leaf, which was interesting. But yeah, those crusties, they're not ideal in your drawing unless you're a huge fan of texture. But now I can use the drawing oil on its side very effectively, which is cool, as well as, yeah, all of it felt the same. It didn't have one section that felt hard, one section that felt soft. It felt the same the whole way around. So I'm glad I tried that, and definitely if I was filling in a large area or something like that, I would probably take the time to use the knife all the way along, the painting knife all the way around the side. I don't think you need a sharp knife. I wouldn't use a razor blade or something like that, because the edge of the painting knife was sufficient of sharpness and much easier to not hurt myself, which I don't want to hurt myself, so good to know it's good. But next I decided to break into a medium and a solvent. So yeah, I think they do say that in the FAQ as well. Where do they say that? Yeah, they said, can they be thinned or blended with oil painting mediums or mixed with pigment sticks? R&F drawing oils can be used with oil painting mediums such as linseed oil, turpentine, or odorless mineral spirits. So here I've got odorless mineral spirits, I've got Liquid Fine Detail by Winsor & Newton, which is a fast dry medium, and then I've got the water mix wheel painting medium by Cobra, because I thought that would be interesting. Can I use that and then still, if I use paintbrushes, wash them in water? Intrigue. yeah, so I put all them out. It did also say in the FAQ they can be combined with pigment sticks, tube oil paint, and many other drawing and painting materials. In comparison to R&F pigment sticks, the drawing oils will dry to a matte finish, which is interesting because yes, the pigment sticks are often quite glossy. And the matte finish because they contain less oil and more wax. I do wonder if that means they dry faster as well, because the pigment sticks, God, do they take forever to dry. I used the titanium zinc white on a commission painting recently, and I'm still waiting for it to dry, and it has been like 3 weeks. So with each of these experiments, I've just got a clean brush, it's a stiff bristle, and I'm just like trying it on the edge first. Kind of forgot my brilliant yellow extra pale was on the sheet at this point, but that's because it was very late at night. Ignore that, we'll find it later. So yeah, I'm just working a little bit of that odorless spirit. No, what am I using first? I'm using the Cobra medium first. Sorry. The Cobra medium. Okay, so first thing I'm doing is just using a little bit of each medium on the edge just to see how much it manipulates the drawing oil. The first one I'm using is the Cobra painting medium, and in my hand you can't see I've got a little tissue and I'm just wiping off the brush in between each application. I was going for speed here, so sometimes there is a bit of colour mixing unintentionally, and then I'm just putting a line through the thick application. The thick application definitely moved the most. I think the first one, some of them were a bit tougher to move simply because I'm working on unprimed paper. And that means that the oil medium or the terps is sinking straight into the paper and it's not staying up and letting me manipulate it with the paint as quickly. That's on me, my bad. I should have used a prime surface, I should have used a surface suitable for oil. Definitely with the higher wax content, it still took a little bit of working it back and forth to get the medium to play nice with the drawing oils. I found the Cobra medium, it didn't love making it move. It's definitely sort of did something. As you can see, it did dissipate it a bit, but also a lot of that texture of the paper mark is still there. So it didn't immediately remove it. And you can see on that last application, it's quite sitting on the top. So it hasn't been worked with the drawing oil. It's sitting on top as a gloss. Pulled it out a little bit, but not a lot. The second one, liquid, I don't know if it's because it has the petroleum as a fast dryer or just in general is a better suited medium to this. It seemed to manipulate it a little bit more. So as I work through each one, I do also think I am working the brush more after learning that from the first swatch. So keep that in mind as well, that I've changed my method a little bit and that seems to be assisting how much the drawing oil is moving and shifting. So yeah, you can see definitely in that, what is it? The warm pink, it moved a lot. It moved a lot with the medium, which was great. I don't know why I skipped over the yellow one, but I went back. Again, we've got Liz late night brain happening here. More eager than sensible. But I'm glad I did do some tests before I started a drawing because it meant that I sort of got to know the character of the material first. And that's the thing, when you get a new art supply, if you just bung in and try and make something, if it's not successful, you could turn yourself off that whole art supply. We call it the board game rule at home. So the board game rule is if you have a horrible experience your first time playing a new board game, you will never want to play that board game ever again. And a lot of the time, the bad experience is if you haven't read the rules before you sit down to play, or in my case, read the FAQ before I sit down to play, or if you haven't given yourself the time, space, and comfort to have a good gaming experience. So same thing here, I'm in the studio by myself, I'm not super distracted, I'm not trying to play with this while talking to 5 people, whilst answering emails, etc. And that's part of the appeal of me working at night, is just I need that time in the studio to myself to really do something with my focus. I'm a night owl person. Well, sound out in the comments if you're a night owl person. The night is where it's at. Now I'm using the odorless solvent, so I've got the odorless solvent on the brush just to see how much it breaks it up. It definitely breaks it up, but it does feel like, sort of like when you're using water with a water-soluble crayon and it takes a little bit of back and forth to get going. It's not that instant reaction of like watercolor paint with water, but it did definitely break it down. So if you applied a whole bunch of drawing oil somewhere and you wanted to shift it and move it, you could definitely use odorless mineral spirit to make it move. And especially in that thick application there, you can see where I've swished the brush, that moved it a lot. So that was a better demonstration of how it actually works with the material without soaking into the paper straight away. I thought I'd do a little master's study. So this is one of the Met Gallery's copyright-free portraits that you can paint. Portraits that you can download a nice high-res image of. And this one, oh, isn't her face just absolutely perfect? So it's Susan Walker Morse, The Muse. And I'm like, that seems appropriate. I was originally going to work on a primed paper, so I put some clear gesso on some paper, but it all buckled and I just wanted to work right now, and I thought if I filmed a buckled paper it would look awful. So I had this old linen panel with a bit of old oil paint on it, and I'm just like, that'll do. Grabbed it, very happy I did. Started, as I would doing a normal painting, if I do an outline, I tend to use a light colour. So I started straight away with that brilliant yellow extra pale. So that way I could just do a little sketch and grab it. What I didn't notice is because I'm working on linen, which has a texture, the texture really let me sort of push the drawing oil into it, and it sort of grabbed at the material and really let it lay itself down. So I think definitely working on canvas and working on linen with these is ideal. I don't think I want to go back to a smooth where it's going to be really slippery and not sort of stay where I want it. That little texture of the linen was enough that I could absolutely manipulate wherever I wanted to put the oil. And you can see there I've started with sort of blocking in where the face is going to go, playing with how can I manipulate these colors together, because when you're using like drawing pastels and things like that, you're limited by the colors you have. But when you have oil paints, you can mix all the colors you have. And this is the best of both worlds, because I can both lay it all down, but then work one pastel over the top of the other, work one drawing oil over the top of the other. The other tool I got purely on impulse literally a week before. These are called rubbing tools. Shush. They've got, it basically feels like a stylus. It's got two ends. One end is stiff and the other end is flexible. And yeah, the white end is stiff and the black end, oh, this is getting worse the more I say. Just ignore what I'm saying. I'm talking factually. Yeah, and because I was so tempted to use my finger to smush the different layers of the drawing oil together, I pulled this out, and I'm so glad I did, because not only does it smush it together, it allows you to physically move the drawing oil around and create little pockets and create smaller detail. Like those eyes, using the big nubby stick, there's no way I could have got detail in those eyes, just them by themselves. And I can only equate it to like, here on YouTube, Black Bean, who does the amazing oil pastel artwork. He uses like scratching tools and things like that to get really fine detail and little bits in there. And he also works really, really big, so he doesn't need fine detail. But because this is only like this big, I, didn't even think about the fact that small detail would be tricky. And the rubbing tool allowed me to get all that little minutiae happening. In the reference image, her hair is sort of dark brown to copper. And because I didn't have a brown, it was a big sort of struggle getting the warm pink, the Payne's grey and the Mars yellow light to play nice together to try and create that hue. A lot of sort of laying the Payne's grey in and then putting other things on top to try and keep that dark but let it develop. But God, that cheek and chin just came in so fast and lovely, and I just love that warm pink for her face. I could not have found a nicer reference for this colour selection, and I got these colours purely off impulse. I didn't actually know what I wanted to draw. I think it was probably going to be a portrait, so it's, you know, similar to that colour card that I customised. It's Zorn adjacent. I've got a yellow ochre-ish yellow, I've got a light, I've got a dark bluish black, which is Payne's grey, and then I've got the warm. But then the Cerulean Extra Pale was the extra, that's not Zorn at all. And that was so nice to give life because it is opposite to orange. It just completely brightened up the atmosphere. Having that old landscape smush in the background of the linen turned out to be a bit of a blessing because it mixed really well with that Cerulean Extra Pale. And again, in the background, I could sort of put down chunks and just work them into each other. She has like a cloudscape behind her head, but I didn't want to be too literal. I just wanted some shapes and things. Same thing, I didn't want to draw like the edge of the window and all the that stuff. We're already getting into 1 a.m, 2 a.m. here, so you know, I picked my battles. I wanted really nice face and neck, and that was what I wanted to try and achieve. This is where I get really fussy. I really wanted that shine in the hair to be just so, and that was really hard. I kept adding and subtracting and adding and subtracting. The same thing with the lips and that far eye. Getting the balance between light and dark was really tricky, but that's less about the material and more about just portraits are hard and they take time, and you can tell when they're not right. When it finally did come together, oh my gosh, I was so happy. I was so happy. Again, this is a doodle. This is the equivalent of me doing some doodle sketching. It is completely not for anything. It was just for fun because I had a new art supply, and I am so happy with it. Little rubbing tool, stained like hell. I definitely wiped it off on this piece of cloth a whole bunch of times because it would pick up the drawing oil when I sort of scraped it back, and then what do you do with it? You got to put it somewhere. So I could either put it down somewhere else on the canvas, or I could wipe it off on the fabric, and that's what I ended up doing. In terms of use, I definitely didn't get through that top tip of any of them except maybe the cerulean extra pale, and a big part of that was heavy use in the background. Right at the last minute, I grabbed this bristle brush and I used a bit of the liquid fine detail on it just to feather out some of that background, and then the second you got some medium on it on the proper substrate, so again this is linen that had oil on it, it was perfect for oil painting, it just glided, it just felt like paint. So if I grabbed a brush earlier, I think my drawing definitely wouldn't have had so much life and texture in it. It would have just turned into a straight painting. I'm so glad I really resisted a paintbrush until the last minute, and I didn't go anywhere near a little detail brush. So yeah, I love that she still reads as a drawing, even with that nice flowy background where I've just flowed out some of that really harsh Payne's grey. Yeah. So now I have a problem. I want all 40 colours. It was 3 a.m. when I finished. Oh god. Is there anything else from the FAQ I wanted to tell you? Absolutely go download it yourself if you like from the R&F website. Yeah, it says that they're great in sketchbooks, stretch canvas and panels. Main thing was you didn't have to use a fixative. They don't need a fixative at all. They're completely fine. They will fully dry. I will let this dry now, and if you want to comment, hey, how long did it dry, then I can tell you later. So let's do that. Thank you so much for joining me for this quickie review, and I absolutely love them. And if anyone is just looking to encourage an artist to buy more colours, the gift button is here on YouTube, and you're more than welcome to, but I will take my time and save up and buy more. I definitely will. I also need to, invest in a Ziploc bag to put them in. I don't know if I need to, but that's what my gut wants me to do. And yeah, I'm excited. Thank you so much for joining me and coming into the studio. Please hit subscribe if you'd like to see more of my painting adventures and art making in general. I am very excited to now be uploading more regularly, either every 2 or 3 weeks here on YouTube, and I am determined to make that stick until the end of the year. And I've got some videos banked up, so they're all going to come at you. I'll see you soon. All right. Don't forget to wash your rubbing tool or your brushes. But don't forget to wash your brushes. Love you, love. Bye.